AI Audiobooks presents The Night King Who Returned with a God by Saram Saleo, chapters 25 through 33. Chapter 25, Marketing 1. Since Yacht Spinner's resurrection, Leon has informed Rai that he would like to make him a guild member of his guild. Then, I'll have to go through the formalities and register separately. It's a bit complicated and will take some time. All right, go do your business. After dismissing Leon walked down the empty hallway with Yacht Spinner, and then, Kuluk! Kick! Kick! Leon choked back the blood that was spitting out of his mouth. Are you okay, my knight? The feedback came immediately, but Leon was relieved to see that the only people looking at him now were the goddess and the holy knight. It's okay. Ariana gritted her teeth at Leon's words. After all, appointing a holy knight in a land that lacks faith is a bit much. It had to be done, don't you think? In the dying world, it was fine because the overwhelming power of the land protected Leon, but now the faith had spread to only a tiny minority. Holy knights are living saints, agents of the gods, and it took a tremendous amount of power to elevate such beings. A drain that even Leon, with his lion's heart, could not endure. Leon? Leon smiled benevolently, reading the thoughts in the Yacht Spinner's mind. It is not your fault. It is my fault for not being strong enough. Oh, is this your fault? Your goddess is lacking. Divinity is not to be blamed in any case. Please withhold your words. At those words, Ariana was silenced. Their Knight of Glory was faithful, even in times like these. So much so that it was hard to believe he was an atheist who didn't believe in gods. My knight, your goddess is always grateful for your devotion. However, the immorality of your goddess and the gods for not acting on your lack of faith has hurt you. The goddess felt the need to hasten what was going on in Pantheon within his heart. Rest well, trust in your gods, and wait. Ariana? With those words, Ariana returned to the Lionheart King's heart, where their Pantheon had been evacuated, where she found the gods waiting for her. On the day that Lionheart King Leon turned 121 years old, when the world was destroyed by evil, and only one knight remained, Leon kept all the fallen holy knights alive and evacuated the Pantheon into his heart. To their shame, the gods took refuge in the saint's body, and for 180 years they watched the lion-hearted king destroy the evil ones. But the gods did not stand idly by. They bestowed upon him all the strength and power they could give. They made their one remaining saint bear all the burdens. Thus all the gods of the Pantheon owed Leon a debt they could not repay. Demera, the god of life and fertility, inquired, Not well, my knight has overdone it. The god of war and flame was furious. What has become of King Lionheart, who once bore the glory of the gods in all their splendor? Keep your head down, War. He fought for more than 200 years for the gods, and he won. I know, and that is why my teeth are chattering. It was not the Lionheart King who was to blame. He was disgracing himself, for he loved the lion-hearted king, Leon Dragonia, more than anyone else. The goddess of light and justice looked around at her brothers and sisters, who must harbor similar feelings, and spoke. The time has come to break our 180-year silence, my brothers and sisters. I can no longer watch my knight suffer. How could they support the Lionheart King and restore the glory of their Pantheon? He shouldn't be the only one to bear the burden. The gods themselves had to take an active role in the situation. My brothers and sisters, we must support our only saint, no longer the only one. It was the god of iron and blacksmith who stepped forward. He was a muscular deity, conspicuously small and dwarfed by the others, but as strong as any of them. The one the dwarves worshipped, their lord, Hito, had just mentioned the newest saint. That child, Yacht Spinner, has become a new saint. Kump, a saint who doesn't believe in divinity. Are you complaining, War? Of course not. To become a saint, One must serve the divine and prove oneself worthy, and he's not qualified for that. There were not a few deities who agreed with him, but there was only one reason for their silence. The Lionheart King has vouched for him. What could be greater? Greater. At that, War looked dumbfounded, and there were murmurs of impatience around him. Justice, in your opinion, is Yacht Spinner good enough to be a holy knight? Ariana spoke up. As a pure being that has thwarted the plots of evil for millennia, he may lack faith, but he is full of honor and loyalty. Iron. Hummer. Leon and Justice place too much emphasis on chivalry. Honor is not enough to win a war. War rumbled on, and he still seemed dissatisfied. Ariana turned to Iron, knowing he would eventually honor the new saint. Iron, there must be a reason you mentioned the Yacht Spinner. What are you thinking? Iron chuckled at Ariana's question. 180 years ago, we lost all the holy knights except one, the Grail Guardian, who burned himself to the ground as a vessel for the descent of the divine until the very end. I know this for a fact. I learned of this world through the life of the only one of us to gain a believer. Is that so? I have seen the world through the eyes of my faithful, and I have discovered an interesting child. Demera, goddess of life and fertility, shared what she saw with the other gods. To others, this time we're in the hot Naju Plains. It was a broadcaster, Mr. Park, a farmer who also streams on the internet. After experiencing the miracle of blessed rice, he traveled to the Naju Plain, which was said to be just as purified as the Hunan Plain. What is that? As some of the gods scratched their heads in confusion, Iron explained. On this world, the homeworld of the Lion-Hearted King, they've recently developed the medium of internet broadcasting, which is quite an effective way to spread news. You mean to preach to them? That's right. Show them miracles and demonstrate our divinity in action. But that's not all. The entire world is tied together by a space called the internet. At that, War questioned. But why didn't King Lionheart think of this? He was an inhabitant of this world. Iron shook his head and spoke the unfortunate truth. It seems that when the Lionheart King died in this world, the internet was still just beginning to develop dramatically. Iron, then, began to describe a concrete plan. We will promote faith in all corners of society with blessings that can be used immediately, including life. Demera and the means of promotion will be the internet and news. But what about trial and error? Even Leon's ambitious newspaper would have taken 20 years to get off the ground. That's where our new holy knight comes in. The gods stared in wonder. Kiruk. The resurrected Yacht Spinner calculatedly assessed his situation and what he needed to do next. Lack of maintenance. Need a centralized information processing unit. First of all, his computing power is significantly lower now that he has no backup from the city, and his main programs not running with any certainty, but even he, a machine, has his doubts as to why he is able to move when he should be perfectly still. Why is his computing power, which should be zero, at the level of a subcomputer? The AI has analyzed thousands and tens of thousands of cases, but it realizes that this is not a logical explanation. Above all, I am Hito, god of iron and blacksmithing, and from now on you are my spokesperson, and I am your guardian. A being spoke to him without any communication devices, and in any language he could understand, since the beings, called hunters, had invaded the city. Phenomena that don't exist in the program, that are physically impossible, are entered into the data, and Yacht Spinner could only come up with words to organize them. Divine system at work. Anomaly A into the divine system. Set aside. The second problem arises when the machine is faced with a phenomenon. It can only conclude, I'll just have to let this one slide. Output 13 needs immediate repair. Since the body has been reduced to 1/100th of its size, the power output has dropped significantly. Even at this size, the original 13 power output is ridiculous for the machine. The destroyed body could not be repaired, and he hacked into the domestic computer system to find a replacement, but most of the substances on the planet could not replace the original armor, and even if they could, the quantity was insufficient. It was then that Iron spoke. "See this. Feel this. This is the metal of the gods from which your body can be made." Bam! Bam! It was invisible but palpable, and he could calculate even though he had no data. The anomaly he felt when I fought Leon. Divine power. With this, he could manufacture his own body. "What do you want me to do?" With iron laugh, a revelation descended, and the strong artificial intelligence quickly began to learn the necessary knowledge. "Ah, Chief, look at this." "What is it?" "It's a video. Is this authorized?" Hunter Association Chief Kim Jin. Su's eyes widened when he saw the video shown by his subordinate. "Naju Plain? YouTubers?" The video began by showing the vast rice fields of the Naju Plain. "I'll show you the benefits of our Manshinjin rice, a special crop that only grows in our Naju Plain." The narration begins with a voice that sounds too perfect to be a machine, a soothing voice that you can't help but like. You ask, what makes Manshinjin rice so special? This video will answer that question. Flawless, ultra, high-definition video in 16, with music that was never heard before. Nanshinjin farmers' mornings start 5 a.m. every day. The flowing video is the work of a pro. The Manshinjin farmers begin with a reverent prayer session with the temporary priest, Mr. Shuai, and the farmers. Look at that, he's still praying to Demera, the goddess of life and fertility. The camera approaches the farmers as they pray toward the altar. Their faces are peaceful and unblemished, more like practicing monks than farmers. The crops blessed by Demera make you healthy and cure diseases just by eating them. My wife had dementia, but now she's fine. I was cured of a long-standing heart condition and can now run 100 meters in 6 seconds. It's all nonsense, but as the screen transitions, the video shows a sick dog running around after eating rice, a dying cancer patient is cured, etc. All of this is possible for one reason: the pantheon of 10,000 gods served by His Majesty Leon Dragonia, Lionheart King of the Pantheon Guild. Demera! Hail, Lionheart! Long live the other gods of the Pantheon! Eventually, the video was viewed by the association staff in the Hunter Division, but they didn't speak until a few seconds after the video ended. Who made this? Isn't it His Majesty Leon? You think he's a YouTuber? Did one of the deputies make this? It was weird. Why would he make a video like this in the first place, let alone an overly high-quality video? Isn't it a bad commercial? Comments were similar. What is this? A commercial? What a waste of talent. Isn't he the survivor that's hot these days? He captured Chongju Gate. You're a joke. Even though I'm a foreigner ignorant of the internet, can I steal this? What's more, it's been translated into 104 languages. Did some crazy pain make it? It was a blatant advertisement, and the gods are being invoked. Even the cheesy commercials they pay for on current affairs programs these days aren't this blatant and illogical. Eating rice cures cancer? A goddess blessed the land? These are the kind of things that would be ridiculed as nonsense. The problem is that everything was absolutely true. Eating rice really does cure cancer, and there were association employees who saw the goddess, and at the center of it all is the Lionheart King from the otherworld. In other words, this is Leon's video. Leon, I need to see him right now. What was he thinking? As Kim Jin. Su prepared to go out, he called Han Ha Ri. What are you thinking? In Leon's penthouse, Yacht Spinner pulled his USP-C converted prosthetic arm away from the laptop. Lord Yappy, are you done with my laptop? Yacht Spinner nodded as he returned Han Ri's laptop. The U Operation Marketing Phase 1 successful. Moving to Phase 2. Chapter 26. Marketing 2. The Manshinjin YouTuber channel has garnered quite a bit of attention on the internet. It had ultra-high definition and impeccable professional workmanship, But the only problem is that it contained the name of Leon, the survivor of the Chongju Gate raid. There's a lot of bullshit in this video. Eating rice will cure cancer? It doesn't make any sense. Of course, a mix of commercials and interviews didn't make people believe in God. And there was still no official certification from the association, so naturally, people had to pass it off as funny. Your Majesty, we have to take the video down. Chief Kim Jin. Su saw the video and immediately came looking for Leon, who had confirmed with Ha Ri that he wasn't in the penthouse, so he came all the way to the Naju Plains where the Simple Guild building had been erected. Chief, please have some barley tea. Thank you. He sipped the barley tea that Ha Ri offered and calmed his nerves. No, who posted that video in the first place? Lord Spinner. Lord Spinner? Kim Jin. Su's gaze flicked to Yacht Spinner. That killing machine made that video? How the hell? Leon's thoughts were the same. I can't believe the gods would give Lord Spinner such instructions. He was told it was a quick way to gather faith, but this was something Leon didn't have the knowledge to discuss, since when he was on Earth, as a child, he had only played the War of the Stars, which was all the rage. The current culture of YouTube and internet broadcasts is unknown to him, as he only remembers the heavy screen of a cart monitor. He knew that Yacht Spinner's powerful artificial intelligence would take care of everything, but he didn't expect it to be this good. What does it mean to take the video down? Of course, people aren't going to believe the video right away, since faith is not something that can be spread by a few commercials. But was it really necessary to take the video down? As your Majesty knows, the rice that grows in the Naju Plain is far different from the crops of our world. Such a miracle crop should have been classified as elixir, not just food. Actually, Korea Food and Drug Administration, an organization that verifies the safety of food or drugs, and they do a lot of experiments. It pains me to doubt the blessings of the goddess, but I suppose you have your own laws and systems. Thank you for your understanding. The blessed rice is of such a quality that there is no problem with its immediate distribution. In fact, I would like you to distribute it. Chief Kim distributed rice to the Kefta and other departments, and the results were amazing. It's a revolution in the medical world. With this rice, most doctors won't even be needed. How is it possible to cure an incurable disease that hasn't even been identified? From the moment you eat the rice, something is working in your body to remove tumors. How is this? How is this possible? From lab rats to people with incurable diseases whose days were already numbered, the blessed rice was a crop that would change the medical world forever. Thousands of tons of this elixir were being produced every year, and humanity was on the verge of overcoming diseases. Even if the only people who could grow it were the Demera faithful, who believed in the goddess of life and fertility, it would be enough for the religion to expand. There was another problem. This rice, the moment it is announced, it will be sought after by the entire world. Yes, this was the problem. There would be many people like Park Jong-chan who would want to secure their own seeds. They might not be able to monopolize it, but they could grow it themselves. With the recent advances in palm farming, the crops can be grown quickly, so it won't take long for it to be mass-produced. But what if they realize that only Demera believers can grow the blessed rice? The Naju Plains will be overrun by thieves, and they won't be ordinary humans. It's even more potent than an enhancement potion, so all the guilds, and even the people from the underworld, would want it. We'll cooperate fully once the Food and Drug Administration approves it and we start sowing the rice in earnest. Until then, please be patient. Indeed, I understand. At Leon's nod, Director Kim Jin, Su cheered inwardly. I can finally convince this guy. However, there's a problem. What? You've been worrying uselessly, Kim. No one will be able to steal the product of a goddess. Leon was smug. The rise of the superhumans after the cataclysm was the hope of humanity. but not all of them became icons of hope. Awakenings occurred among young and old alike, and of course there were many who chose a life of crime. The Fiend Association, this global shadowy conglomerate, has become a thoroughly organized crime syndicate, operating on the deep web. They are involved in all sorts of crimes and are willing to commit murder if the money is right. And now, a request has come in for the Vipers, the third-tier hit squad of the Korean branch of the Fiend Association. We want you to secure the rice seeds in the Naju Plain and burn down the granaries. The payment was in Bitcoin, half down payment and half after the mission was successful. Yu Ying immediately researched the Naju Plain. It's real. The Hunters Association has stopped the rumors from spreading, but there are cases of people taking it everywhere. You mean it wasn't just a stupid commercial? Anyway, now that they've been commissioned and paid, it was time for action. The Vipers headed straight for the Naju Plains with over 50 minions. They're only C or D hunters, but they're way overpowered for something as simple as stealing rice. If it weren't for the client's insistence that they take as many members as possible, they could have gotten by with regular men. What the hell? I thought you were going to bring as much manpower as possible because there were a bunch of guards. Are we really just supposed to secure the seeds and burn the granaries? Entering the fields with the oil barrels, the Vipers slowly made their way through the fields before stopping. Brother, it's a person. The youngest member spotted something in the darkness and gasped. At his words, the members drew their weapons, but their faces fell because it wasn't a person, but a puppet. It's a scarecrow, stupid. Oops. Sorry, they were barely human shapes, stuffed with wadding and woven with straw, hanging from the pole, dressed in clothes and a hat that didn't fit, but in the darkness, they took on a human form. This is weird. I thought it just moved. The youngest examines the scarecrow. Under Leon's stern orders, the scarecrows have been painted with dye on their faces to give them eyes and mouths. In this darkness, the spooky is almost creepy. Oh, asshole, put it away. Brother, look at those. The leader of the Vipers was horrified as the scarecrows were everywhere. Pieces of cotton, straw, stone, wood, like very old totems, moved around the field like puppets. Tap, tap, tap. Oh, 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 oh. Is the dull sounds of things moving and rumbling an illusion? The sound was so subtle that they mistook it for an illusion, so they didn't pay attention to it, but it seemed like a mistake to enter the field. Tap, tap. Oh, 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 oh. Suddenly, there was a loud clang, and one of the tense members drew his sword. You idiot! Why are you afraid of a scarecrow? I'm sorry, but something's off here. You idiot! Don't go around saying you're a member of the Vipers. The leader reprimanded his subordinate and ordered the others to pour oil. Calculate the wind direction and burn it as wide as possible. But where will we get the seed? Idiot! We've checked the granaries. We can rob them. The men were convinced and poured out the oil from the barrel. If this is so good, let's get some from the warehouse. Mansu and Jintai, you two. Huh? Where did you two go? What? They were following me earlier. Ooh, where did Dusanya go again? This can't be happening. How can a person disappear in an instant in this open field? Tap, tap, tap. Ooh, ooh, ooh. The disturbing sound from earlier gradually became clearer, and as the pressure seemed to be coming from all directions, the Viper Lord looked around. Hey, was that puppet always this close? A scarecrow with a smiling face painted with crimson dye stood in front of them. What? I don't know. No, it's weird. It was so far away just a moment ago. And what's with this clanking sound and the rumbling? As he turned his head to address his subordinates, he caught a movement in the corner of his vision. He was so startled that he didn't even take the time to assess the situation before blindly swinging his sword. Big brother? Fuck. It wasn't until he smashed one of the scarecrows that he understood that they were moving. "Check your surroundings, you idiots! These things are moving!" Huh? The unity was the result of the Viper's survival instincts kicking in. They turned to face each other, their backs to each other, and witnessed the unthinkable. The deformities become creatures, and the scarecrows transform into monsters. Why hadn't they seen it before? Why did they see it now? There were scarecrows, stone figurines, and even roots strewn across the wheat fields like totems. All sorts of unidentifiable creatures moving about in the night. The scarecrows made by the shoddy workmanship of the people, or a twisted fantasy recreating the invasion of the old ones. Holy shit, they're monsters. They're monsters. This wasn't even the area where the dungeon break occurred, so what kind of monsters were they? It was a nonsensical statement, but what was happening now actually defied common sense. In a panic, the Vipers tore and crushed the dolls, but the puppets were able to weave their shattered bodies back together, regenerating like living things, or rather, like something beyond living things, or rather, like something beyond living things. Tap! Tap! Ooh! Ooh! Unbelievers were not tolerated in the goddess's wheat field, where her holy power resides. Toad of life and abundance. Make an image of the goddess from the first of the harvest, and offer it to the altar. Do not urinate on the fields. Manure is fine. Build a scarecrow and make sure it had a hat and clothes. When you harvest, sing a song. Don't go hungry, even if you're in a hurry. The most important rule, number 0, was 0. Those who break the rules will die. The Viper Lord Heo sang. Man fled, leaving more than half his men in the field. Big brother, what the hell is that? I didn't even see them at the gate. I don't know, asshole. The request was strange to begin with, since they were paying that much for stealing rice seeds and setting a fire. But even so, it was hard to predict this situation. The Vipers were mostly D-class, but they were still fiends, and how could they not steal a single rice seed? They recognized that this mission was wrong from the start, and they had every intention of screwing over their client. They may have come anonymously, but they could use the help of the Fiend Association's intelligence arm, the Dark Moon, and they've been generous with their payments, so they won't be ignored. Big brother, wait. What? Heo sang. Man, irritated by his subordinate's insistence, spotted the building in front of them. This is the granary that is the target, a place where residents stack their harvested rice. Seeing this, he had a realization which naturally led to greed. If this rice is real, it's worth a lot of money. He'd lost half his men, and he couldn't afford to come back here empty-handed. Those monsters are only in the fields. There's nothing in the granaries. Common sense tells him that, with monsters like that in the fields, there can't be any in the granary, but his confidence is boosted when a subordinate who actually has good eyesight tells him there's nothing around. Transfer as much rice as possible to the vehicles. Let's go. There would be piles of threshed rice, and it would be easier to steal it than to harvest it, but the moment he stepped into the warehouse, bam! Bam! Huh? Something ominous, a sound that was often heard in war movies. Mines. Quang! Quang. Heo sang. Man's body flew into the air. Big brother! What? Landmines? Why are there landmines here? He was gasping for breath and shivering as a mine exploded under his feet. Even though the landmine was meant to blow his legs off rather than kill him, it only tore his left foot off because he was a superhuman. Brother, I'm trying to save you. Stop, you idiots! You don't know how many mines there are. At that, the minions came to their senses. Save me. Seeing only an illusion of a breathless figure, the subordinates were unable to step forward easily. Even if they were fiends in the first place, they were third-rate scoundrels who accidentally awakened and fell into a life of crime. Compared to the evil fiends, they were just a gang of thugs with a little power. If they were willing to throw themselves into a minefield to help the boss, Why would they join the Fiend Association? Run. A member of the group winced at the tingling sensation at the back of his neck, as on his back the blood-red wire glowed in the moonlight. A wire? The members of the Vipers looked around in alarm, and they saw a giant spider's web of steel wire and a steel spider slithering down from it. Despite its diminished size, there's no fool who can't recognize the infamous killing machine from Shangju. Ah! They realized it was a trap as the Holy Knight himself descended to capture his prey. Chapter 27. Marketing 3. In the midst of the night's tumult, Leon did not wake, but slept. How could a man of royalty be concerned with such trivial matters? Your Majesty, there are thieves outside. King Lionheart chastised the commoner who rushed into his room. Oh, Your Majesty, we're in big trouble. How dare you invade this king's bedchamber? What? Did you know about that? Leon had noticed the raiders invading the fields long before. There are thieves, and we must deal with them. It's the guard's job to deal with bandits. Leon's dismissal made Rhee's heart race. From what she could see on the camera, it was obvious that they were from the Fiend Association. 50 awakened will wreak havoc in Your Majesty's fields, and there is not a single guard on the fields in the first place. How do you know there aren't? What? Ha! Rhee would soon find out that the land is blessed by Dimera, and there are more than a few scarecrows on it. Bang! 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 A loud explosion, along with screams, was heard in the night. The Holy Knight's eyes glow red in the midst of the pandemonium, giving the illusion of being in the middle of a battlefield. Wow! Rhee was dumbfounded as he watched the fiends being subdued in real time. The next morning, Leon looked at the 50 captured fiends in front of the village hall. 50 people were bound and immobilized by wires with holy power and strange aura of the scarecrows, so the police and the association staff were there to dispose of them. Slit their wrists. Ha! Leon said as he looked at the men. What a bunch of lowly creatures, trying to steal a little grain, but thieves show their true colors by having their wrists slit, their wrists one by one. Ah, wait a minute, Your Majesty. This is the modern age. She was stunned by Leon's order to slit the wrists of the captured minions. When it comes to criminals, domestic laws must be followed. What a lenient law for criminals. They must be tried. Ha! Rhee wondered how to explain the modern legal system to this medieval-minded king, but then the unexpected arrived. Is this where you got the tip? Yes, they said the fiends were caught stealing. It was reporters getting out of their cars, and not just reporters, but also professional YouTubers, rushing over to see where they had heard the news. Who are you guys? Ha! Rhee waved them off, but they immediately recognized her and wanted to interview her. Hunter Han Ha. Rhee, is it true that you were robbed during the night? I heard it was the Vipers, a notorious fiend gang. A whopping 50 fiends attacked. How did you manage to defend yourself? How did you know all that? Rhee was embarrassed. She didn't know, and neither did the reporters. How would they know about the existence of an anonymous informant who could never be traced with modern technology? Why on earth did the fiends attack? I think it's because of the rice harvested by the 10,000 Gods Guild. Rice from the 10,000 Gods Guild? What is that? Why, you know that video that's been trending lately, the elixir rice. Was that real? Isn't it because it's real that the fiends are flocking to it? One headline after another began to form in the journalists' minds. What if the cancer curing rice was real? Is it true that rice grown by the 10,000 Gods Guild can cure cancer? Well, what's the deal with the 10,000 gods? Is everything King Leon says true? Well, if you call his name in front of His Majesty, you'll get a slap on the wrist. Please be careful what you say. Anyway, the reporters wanted to know why the fiends were trying to burn the rice fields in the Naju plain. They asked why they were doing this, and naturally, their interviews made the evening's news. One reporter asked a sharp question. "More than that, Hunter Honha, is it true that you planted mines near the granary?" "Ooh, mines. That." The reporter, who had interviewed the residents of the village beforehand, pressed on. "Even if you're a hunter's guild, aren't weapons of mass destruction, like mines, a violation of the Firearms Act? It's a grave offense. Where the hell did you get them from?" Well, it's handmade by a guild member, so it's just..." It was then that a mouse had stepped on a landmine while scurrying around the granary and exploded into a million pieces. "Rats, it's a mousetrap, see?" No one believed her a bit. This is what the gods had planned. Leon stepped in front of Yappy and watched the whole thing unfold. Leon. Hito, the god of iron and blacksmithing, laid out the prerequisites for gaining faith. Phase 1 was to make as many people as possible hear the name of the Pantheon. The most basic condition for fame is that many people see, hear, and become familiar with it, no matter how ridiculous it may seem to the common sense of modern world. They spread the word through marketing. Phase 2, getting attention. The more threatening and controversial the bandits who come after the rice, the better it was for them. Reliance, self-inflicted. It was Yappy who hired the bandits, which means the raid was self-inflicted. Where did he get the money to hire those thugs? Yappy holographically displayed the Bitcoin wallet he'd hacked into hundreds of coin exchanges and stolen inconspicuously. Humans, financial systems, strange, extremely inefficient, lack of security, infinitely replicable. I've heard of Bitcoin from the Miners Association, which is based on the deep web, a networked system, was not beyond Yappy's reach. High-level members with access to the depths of the Miners Association were strictly analog and referral-based, so the only people he was able to hire were grunts, unlimited copies of cryptocurrency. As long as he had Yappy, Leon didn't have to worry about funding, since any modern cryptocurrency or financial system could be hacked by Yappy if he wanted to. No, such goods are not legitimate goods. It's not a good idea to fund the guild with them. I don't understand. Leon smiled gently at Yappy, who didn't understand the knight's way of thinking. It's okay if you don't understand now, but honor requires that you always be true to yourself. Lord Spinner, this king hopes you have a strong sense of justice. Cryptocurrency cloning plan temporarily suspended. Yappy had fulfilled Leon's wish without understanding, and he resumed his explanation. Minor crimes. Issue Mall. The fiends raided the field and wanted to steal seeds and burn down the fields. The reporters were called, and they made a big deal out of the fact that this was something the Fiend Association was involved in. You said you had a final plan. What is it? Final phase of plan marketing. Upon hearing the plan, Leon smirked. Apparently, the gods have adapted to modern times better than I, a native earthling. Final phase. Implement the K principle. Yacht Spinner is an A that can't even be compared to the supercomputers of modern humans. The networking systems of modern humans are mere toys to him, and hacking a simple content hosting website is an easy task. Yappy hacked into YouTube and began posting dozens of videos of the 10,000 Gods Guild and its related organizations. Shock! Hundreds of minions kneeling before the majesty of K. Rice. Why did they target K. Rice? Rice is a panacea for all diseases. Japan on its knees begging, please sell us some rice. Prime Minister and Emperor begging for forgiveness. The 10,000 Gods Guild. I love Korea so much. Yappy is a strong artificial intelligence and can learn anything through algorithms, then thoroughly applies the results that appear as numbers. Yappy's videos got hundreds of thousands of views and thousands of comments. The thumbnails that catch the eye and content that seems plausible created a wave, and they just rode it. Yaya, is this a true story? I want a bowl of Korean noodle soup. This is the power of Korean rice. Lol. Lol. The human world is so strange. Yappy was puzzled by this reaction, but he proceeded to delete, report, and even delete accounts with the administrator privileges he gained by hacking into the YouTube headquarters. At the same time, he didn't forget to increase the number of views and comments on the 130,000 accounts he created. From this moment on, there will be no end to the exposure of videos related to the 10,000 Gods Guild unless humanity abandons the network system. Ahn Dong-gil, the 23rd president of South Korea, was recently going through a political crisis. Suspicion of political collusion with the Daelong Group, the dark side of the incumbent president, the silence of the president of Korea. What will happen to the country? President Ahn Dong-gil frowned at the headlines in the newspaper. In front of him, Kim Dae, young chairman of Daelong Group, one of Korea's leading conglomerates, smirked. Why do you only look at the bad stories when there's so much good food, Mr. President? They were in a high-end restaurant in Cheongdam, Dong, where no one knows what goes on in the secretive, Veep, only chambers there, but the people involved. It was here that President Ahn Dong-gil met with Chairman Kim Dae-young and promised to veto any regulatory bills unfavorable to Daelong Group. This is the problem with these bastards, he said. They have no fear of the President of Korea. That's right. In our young days, we could never have imagined that. Kim Dae-young raised his glass to the president. Although he may only have 2 years left in office, his political influence doesn't fade with his departure from power. In his youth, he was a democracy fighter, and his grandfather and great-grandfather were independence fighters. Although the scandal may have weighed on him a bit, Kim Dae-young didn't think it would last long, and the corners of his mouth twisted wickedly. How far will the barking pigs go? This was the kind of rant that, if it had been published in the media, would have sparked a boycott and a movement to remove him from office. But Kim Dae-young was unflappable. They can bark in moderation, but it will soon die down. Isn't that the nature of the pot calling the kettle black, that it boils over when it's boiling, but quickly subsides when it's off the heat? You're a bit harsh to call the country's people dogs and pigs, don't you think? I apologize for that. Of course. Isn't this president a servant of the people? Although I'm a servant who holds the leash and shakes the pigs. Yeah, the people are ignorant and stupid. How can they be so upset that they lost so much just because he passed a bill? The stupid ones fall for the opposition's propaganda and play the role of justice warriors. Mr. President, this is my small token of respect. Kim Dae-young held out a small box, and it was no secret that it contained hundreds of millions of dollars worth of gifts. What a surprise. President Ahn tapped Kim on the shoulder as he took the gift box. By the way, Mr. President, have you heard anything interesting in the news this time? News? Oh, him. At Kim's mention, Ahn immediately thought of a hot topic. In fact, it was partly because of the survivor of the Seungju Gate that his negative news was not so hot. Leon, the one who said he was a king and an agent of the gods, huh? We talked on the phone once, and he said something about how he needed me to recognize him for something. Though he had only heard the voice for a moment, Leon had made quite an impression on President Ahn. From what he heard, Leon was a hierarchical brute, but in his experience, he was far from it. I hear he's been pissing off Mr. Park of the Dojong Foods Group. It's all over the place in business circles. Dojong Group, why him? Dojong Foods was a major Korean conglomerate that even the president couldn't mess with. That barbarian friend is making life difficult on Earth. Survivors break the rules of Earth's civilization based on their experiences in their worlds. The impersonal behavior of survivors is not a rare sight, as some of them end up becoming fiends because they can't adapt to life on Earth. I'm going to meet him this time anyway. Shake his hand, take a few pictures, and have a little dinner. That'll make for a good story. Leon had become quite the topic of conversation compared to the average survivor. First, he had cleansed the miasma in the Hunan and Naju plains and cleared the gate that had been the headache of Chongju. A survivor who had been on Earth for less than a month had become an instant star, and high-profile hunters were often used as political poster children. Mr. President, if you ever get a chance to meet him. Blessed rice, I heard it's all the rage on the internet these days. It's not just good. My niece was in the middle of breast cancer, and somehow she got hold of that rice and ate it. Breast cancer. That must have been very distressing. I wasn't too worried because she's a domesticated bitch. But anyway, did you know that her condition improved greatly after eating that rice? Is it true that it cures cancer? He had received a report from Kang Hayuk, the president of the association, but I was skeptical because it was still in the experimental stage. That barbarian has very strange powers. The president waited for Leon's visit, looking forward to their meeting. If he could get the savage to cooperate, he could cover up the scandal, and it would be a great help to his cause. Chapter 28 Inner Justice 1. After capturing Chongju Gate, Leon's meeting with President An was a quick one. Hello, I'm President An Dong, Gil. Pleased to meet you, Leon Dragonia Lionheart. Outside the presidential office, President An shook Leon's hand and realized that he was more impressive than he thought. He's handsome. On the surface, he looks like a handsome young man in his 20s. Had he just become king? Let's take a picture here. The president smiled and waved at the reporters' flashes. The next day, the headlines in the newspapers were glowing. Hoo! This will be a good picture. President An took a picture with Leon, a high-profile survivor. He is strengthening bonds with survivors. Well, it would be appropriate to run a headline like this. 30 years after the cataclysm. The public's main concern is the progress of gate raids and the hunters. The gate caused a catastrophe so horrific that it almost wiped out human history, but it also spawned a superstar in the form of the hunter. It's the hunters who have taken over the image of the monster, slaying humanity, saving hero, so it's not a bad idea to keep them around as politicians. Leon, may I address you as your majesty? You may, President An. President An and his staff even held a meeting to discuss how to treat Leon. He claimed to be the king of the kingdom beyond the gate and even said he was an agent of the gods. Should they take him at his word or treat him like an ordinary survivor or citizen? In the end, however, they decided to treat Leon as if he were the Queen of England. A superhuman with the strength of an S-class hunter could have a title. If you'd like to eat first, I've prepared a feast for His Majesty Leon. Okay, the mood is not bad. If I can keep things cordial through the meal, my political objective will be accomplished. With that, they headed to the banquet hall, with reporters following, but Leon stopped. That's rude. The president, his secretary, and the reporters stop in their tracks. When they all gave him a puzzled look, he turned to the president. Mr. President, who are they? Leon's finger pointed at the reporters, and President incautiously replied, They're reporters. You mean they're not the servants serving the meal? Servants? When President An was wondering if he should say that the word sounded rude. Rude? How can a commoner come to a king's banquet? Kings do not mingle with commoners. Not only the reporters, but the secretary, and even President An gulped. What did I just hear? What the hell is that in the 21st century? Your Majesty, wait. Shut up and behave like a commoner. Oh no. What's wrong with this guy? Is he trying to kill someone's political life? President An thought of the news headlines that would appear the next day. Authoritarian survivors. Shocking rant. The damage to his image and his approval ratings were obvious, so President An rushed to defend himself. Ha ha ha. His Majesty Leon is still not used to reporters. Isn't this an unavoidable cultural difference? Multiculturalism, which I've been actively advocating lately, requires understanding of these cultural differences. President An broke out in a cold sweat and passed off the rant as a joke, but only a handful of people were allowed to remain at the dinner. At least one reporter was able to stay behind. Well, that's a good thing, because it's a ruling party, supporting media outlet. Before Ahn could finish his sigh of relief, Leon dropped a bombshell. It's a good thing we don't have any noisy rats. Please. Is he working for the opposition and trying to bring me down by labeling me a racist? President Ahn tried to change the subject. Your Majesty Leon, how is your life in Korea? I'm making myself at home, Mr. President, by the way. What? Please feel free to speak to me. Oh no, I'm comfortable with this. You're not a king. That's true. President Ahn wondered if this man really understood the position of president as a king. The president was trying to make the dinner as cordial as possible, and Leon understood that. The president wants something from me. It's easy to understand what that might be. In fact, given his track record so far, it's hard to imagine there's much he could ask for. Leon read about the latest scandal, so he thought that the president was trying to look good and build his own image. But there's something that Ahn overlooked. Leon was the king of a country. He ruled for 70 years and lived for 300 years before the world was destroyed by demons. To the Lionheart King, who relied heavily on force, but was also a master of court politics and dealt with an unwilling empire and disparate peoples, Ahn was a young man. By the way, Your Majesty, how was your meal? Not bad. The food culture in this country seems to be of a high standard. Haha, I'm glad you liked the meal. What did you like best? Leon was an earthling once. He was Korean, and he knew what would win their favor. That's why he left a reporter behind. He picked a reporter from a media outlet that was favorable to the president's party, so he'll spin the story as favorably as he can. Leon chuckled and continued. I love the idea of bibimbap. Oh, you mean bibimbap? The reporter's camera shutter clicked as he turned off his flash. This food is called bibimbap. The colors of the vegetables are harmonious and beautiful. It must be because your ancestors were wise and understanding that they came up with such a harmonious dish. Oh, that's it. That's what I wanted to hear. Very good. That's a good reaction, and it's one that's going to be on YouTube for a while. The Lion King of the other world praises K bibimbap. Japan was surprised. China was horrified. And the US was envious. What is the identity of key food that even otherworldly royalty praised? The amazing this that made the world tremble and Japan envious. What was His Majesty's reaction? Wow, that's great. Aside from the national pride, it was a very nice comment. How can you say something so pretty without being asked? It's like the gods of the Temple of 10,000 Gods in the Lionheart Kingdom. Mum? My kingdom emphasizes the harmonious coexistence of the divine and the human, just like this bibimbap. They intertwine and shine off each other. Is that? So, now that this was said, President Ahn couldn't help but ask about the divinity and Leon's kingdom. That? What kind of country was the Lionheart Kingdom? It was a kingdom that valued honor, cared for its subjects, and revered its divinity. For what? The people of this country. In my short time here, I've seen their lives, and I've seen so many sick, weak, and dying. It's all because I wasn't good enough, serving the people, and... No, that's not the problem. It's the falling ill part. The reporter's camera turns to Leon, naturally waiting for his next words. If you eat the crops blessed by the goddess Demera, you'll never get sick in your life. Cancer, I believe it was called, and I'm shocked that people die because it can't be cured. What? President Ahn's mind raced. Is this guy advertising? He's royalty from a medieval civilization. Does he know about modern advertising techniques? After that, Leon continued to praise Korean culture, but secretly talked about the miracles of the Temple of 10,000 Gods. However, all of this was backed up by real-life examples of blessed rice and purified Naju plains, and the recent capture of the fiends also played a role. As a result, the president and Leon's conversation naturally turned to the Temple of 10,000 Gods. "Thank you for the meal. President An, why don't we take a walk and talk?" "Sure." The two stood up and walked down the path as a reporter followed them, but since it was a private moment, he only took pictures from a distance. "Now is the time to hear what this man has to say. President An, by the way." "What is it, Your Majesty Leon?" "I've been trying to understand your political system and culture as best I can." "That's a good thing. Many survivors do not even attempt to understand Earth civilization. Those are the ignorant ones, and I am not one of them, but there is something I don't understand." "What is it?" President An swallowed nervously. What this man was about to say was strangely disturbing. "Democracy," he said. "You were elected by an act of the people, a vote. 49% of the people in this country voted for you." "Ha ha! I have the people to thank for that. That's the problem." "What?" Leon began to speak in an offhand manner. "I, an honorable knight, guardian of the Grail, chosen by the goddess, have one vote, the same as a bunch of lowly mortals. Is that what you mean?" "No, of course not, in a democracy. This king is saying that democracy is an inefficient system." The president was puzzled. What was this barbarian talking about? The duty of the common man is to toil, to support the knights and nobles. They are easily tempted by evil because they want more than they need and are unhappy with what they have. He denied democracy and was against capitalism. Leon casually rattled off the conclusions of modern Earth's political system. "My advice for my president is that the only truly happy nation is a perfect one, ruled with an iron fist by a king chosen by the gods. How can commoners, who don't know politics, elect a king?" Unable to believe his words, he stammered back. "Are you denying democracy?" Leon shook his head in disbelief. "How can I deny a law, however foolish and stupid, that was formed through the due process of a nation?" "Whoa!" President An patted his chest in surprise. "So I'm going to run for president myself." "What?" "I don't like the idea of having to get votes from bums, but I have to follow due process. Of course, once this king is president, I'll have to tear up all these stupid laws." "You're saying you're going to abolish democracy?" An's heart rate rose again. "Your Majesty, a country is its people, and this country's democracy was built with the blood of its people." Leon looked dumbfounded, but then he declared, "The burden is the state, never the other way around." President An was shocked by Leon's words. An doesn't think of himself as righteous. He's moderately corrupt and moderately disrespectful of the people, but not like Leon. "I'm an asshole, but I'm no more of an asshole than this guy." As the independence fighter in his blood has been ignited, his goals for the rest of his term became clear. "Father, grandfather, are you watching? I will stop this horrible authoritarian from doing politics." The dormant justice within President An Dong, Gil, was ignited. Chapter 29. Inner Justice 2. The meal and walk with the president wrapped up neatly. As he listened to Leon's story, his complexion growing paler and more determined, Leon tapped him on the shoulder. "President An, despite my status as a guest, I have a favor to ask of you." "What?" "Favor?" President An was very worried about what kind of favor this madman might ask. This was a scumbag king who saw his people as pigs to be exploited. Awakening his inner sense of justice, An had long since forgotten about his meal with Chairman Kim a few days earlier. "It's no big deal. I have farmers who farm under me. They told me that the contamination of their land has not yet been procedurally resolved." Ah! He knew immediately what Leon meant. Land contaminated with miasma is classified as a contaminated area and all activities are suspended. The Hunan Plain has been cleaned up, but it still needs to be verified and processed, so technically it's still an administrative, contaminated area. The local officials are a bit slow. I'll get it done soon. Thank you. I apologize for asking you to do this as a guest. No, Your Majesty, what you have done for Korea is more than enough. President An was wary of Leon, but he didn't deny Leon's usefulness. He also had questions about the blessed rice. Speaking of which, Your Majesty, how do you intend to distribute the rice in the future? I've decided to sell it through the association. I see. But it seems like a lot for the association to handle alone, especially since it's such a big commodity that even foreign countries would be interested. We can't even feed the people of this land, so how can we look to other countries? But if all the peasants have the faith they should, it won't be too far away. President An understood Leon's intentions, but he hadn't forgotten what Chairman Kim Dae-jung had asked him to do a few days earlier. Leon's blessed crop was a big hit. It was an innovation, and the seeds had to be secured by South Korea. What if Korea was the first to distribute the blessed rice to the entire country and create a national health miracle? President An could only imagine the future. Leon smiled wickedly, since it was obvious what President An was thinking. However, he shouldn't be this surprised. The miracles of being in the company of the divine don't end there. President An, by the way, the association has been a bit noisy with me lately. What? Even though I've ordered them to cooperate with you in every way? Indeed. You are the representative of the nation. President An was willing to grant Leon's request no matter what. Since he hadn't made any overt moves yet, he'd take what he could get. What do you want from the association? Just benefits like the other guilds? Something about this king having to pay taxes. As President An knows, counting coins is unbecoming of a king. Political figures had fun counting the juice boxes, bribes, they received. How can a king be expected to pay taxes? President An was criticized for tax evasion of 10 billion won, and even his father-in-law was involved. That can't be right. I can't pay a penny of my own, and the commoners of the association don't understand. President An should do something about it. You're worse than me, you bastard! Once again, his inner justice was ignited. Kim Dae-jung, chairman of Daelong Group, received the introduction to Leon that he had requested from President An, and the group was busy preparing all kinds of dinner and welcoming arrangements. Kim Shin-young, can't you get over here quickly? Uncle, I'm still not fully recovered. Kim Shin-young was the niece of Daelong Group chairman Kim Dae-jung, a young woman who had recently undergone chemotherapy for breast cancer. She was the epitome of a chaebol spoiled brat with an unruly personality, but not today. If you don't behave yourself today, I don't care if it's your mom or dad, I'm going to break your legs. Come. I've been meaning to go clubbing for a while. Even as she said that, Kim Shin-young was looking forward to Leon's visit. She had been suffering from chemotherapy and miraculously began to heal after eating the rice. Of course, she's not cured yet, but it's not too far off, as the large tumor mass has shrunk to a size scientists can't explain. The blessed rice didn't even need rehabilitation. In fact, even though the cancer was not yet cured, she felt much healthier than before, and her body was full of energy. And most importantly, she felt a strange energy whenever she ate rice. The mysteriousness of it all bothered her. But uncle, have you tried that rice yet? Don't eat it without knowing what it is. I'll think about it after the safety tests are done. The food Shin-young had gotten was what her mom had stolen from the Hunan Plains for her during her treatment. It's not so easy to find now that it's strictly monitored by the association. What kind of man is he? Shin-young was curious about Leon, the man who produced such rice. The information that he was a survivor of the attack on the Shongju Gate was widely spread. It had become quite an issue for him to spread his faith, but Kim Shin-young was the one who had directly benefited from it. Even now, she could feel the warmth in her body. It was an indescribable sensation for a woman who was used to clubbing, pleasure, and drugs. Time passed, and soon a government motorcade pulled into the ballroom. Your Majesty, welcome. President Kim Dae Young greeted Leon with an attitude that made him feel like he was about to throw his hands up in the air. But despite his hospitality, Leon narrowed his eyes and clicked his tongue. Esk. If it weren't for President An's request, I wouldn't have come to this banquet. Ha ha. It's our family honor, Your Majesty. Mr. Kim did not make the same mistake as Pak Jong-chan of Dojong Group. His opponent was a thoroughly authoritarian royal. He's arrogant and treats entrepreneurs as vassals, but his power is real. Whether it's faith or the lion-hearted king, it's a kind of power he doesn't understand. But in short, it's enough to make money. The reason I invited you this time is because I have a child who has been cured of a great illness thanks to your grace. Ho ho! You say you have a child who has been graced by the goddess? Yes, Shin. Young, what are you doing not coming out? Mr. Kim's strategy was to return the favor for Kim Shin, Young, whose cancer was cured thanks to the blessed rice. It may seem like Chairman Kim is giving one-sidedly, but the human heart wants to give back when it receives something. In this way, they build goodwill and maintain their relationship and naturally talk about business. Ah! As Shin, Young, stood before Leon and something inside her responded. It was a radiant brilliance, a holy halo and glory, and a spiritual power that transcends humanity. Shin, Young shuddered at the intense aura that pulsed through her. Knees? What the hell is wrong with her? Was she sick? I told her to not come here if she was sick. The niece of the chairman of Daelong Group, Kim Shin, Young, was very famous within the group. It's no secret that she's a bit of a troublemaker, and she pops pills in broad daylight. If it weren't for the influence of the Daelong Group, Kim Shin, Young would have been in jail as a drug dealer. But even Mr. Kim, the chairman of Daelong Group, hasn't been able to fix Kim Shin Young's messed up behavior. But are you a god, or are you death? Niece, you're scary. What's wrong with you? I am an agent of the temple of 10,000 gods. I am the guardian of light and justice, the keeper of the temple's flame. Ah! As Leon stood before her, Shin Young dropped to her knees in fear, desperately avoiding his gaze, as if trying to prevent something as filthy as herself from touching him. No one in the house, including Mr. Kim, could even imagine that something like that could happen. Please withdraw your hand. Don't be afraid. Shin Young wondered if this was what the sick woman who touched the hem of Jesus' garment 2,000 years ago would have felt. Something inside her was burning hot in response to the intensity of the man's radiance. She felt a sense of fidelity and sacredness in her mind that the drug-induced hallucinations couldn't even compare to. Hold on to the divinity you feel now. Your purity is pleasing to the divine, so you will be rewarded. Him. Thank you, angel. Call me King Lionheart. Leon gently stroked Shin Young's head as she wept with emotion. It was a sight that would have stunned anyone who knew him on Earth. But aside from that, what the fuck? I'm scared. Why is he? He's crazy. To ordinary people who don't consume the blessed rice and don't feel the presence of the divine, it would have looked like a terrifying seizure of a drug addict, with the difference being that she was so much more subdued than usual. Take this child to the bedroom. She is a child of great spiritual ability, so treat her with respect. Yes? He's excellent as a religious person. They shot him a questioning glance, but Leon's gaze was firm. Come on! Ah, yes, ma'am, this way. Faced with Leon, the staff struggled to carry the sobbing girl with weak legs, while Mr. Kim was dumbfounded. But Leon's voice woke him up. Are these the guests you invited? What? No, I didn't invite anyone other than your majesty. There's Chairman Kim. Before he could finish his sentence, a group of people rushed in from the other side, and the president's bodyguard team immediately stepped forward, but their voices sounded raspy. President Kim Dae, Young, guarantee a 5-day work week, raise frozen wages, reinstate the unfairly fired employees. Protesters holding signs stormed in, and Leon asked, "What are they?" "Your Majesty, you don't have to worry about them."
What?
When Leon gave him a look of displeasure, Chairman Kim blurted out, "They're protesters. Protesters. They've been making a lot of noise lately." "Protesters? What are they?" Chairman Kim hesitated to answer because if he told the truth here, he'd be the bad guy. "It's not a big deal. I hired them, and now they're asking me to raise their wages without any gratitude. How many other people could replace them, and they don't even know what they're doing? That is not a good thing to say. Labor is sacred, and laborers should be treated accordingly." Oops. He was leaning toward social justice, but he misjudged the royalty. Chairman Kim admitted his mistake and tried to play it off as smoothly as possible. "No, of course. Our group maintains industry standards for employee accommodations. In fact, we do a pretty good job of it." "Industry standards. I don't need to hear that." "Ha, ha, ha." Mr. Kim broke out in a cold sweat and quickly thought of something to make Leon feel better. "Yeah, righteous in appearance," he thought. "His Majesty is giving me a big lesson, so I'll raise their wages." "Raise their wages? How? What?" Leon stared at Chairman Kim with questioning eyes. He was genuinely puzzled. "There's no need to raise wages since you already have a set rate." "What? Ah, I heard that His Majesty also favors farmers. What is your Majesty's opinion?" 90%. For a moment, Kim wondered if he'd misheard. "In the Lionheart Kingdom, where we are taught by the goddess, people give 90% of their output. It's benevolent, and it guarantees them a whopping 10's return." "Ah, crazy. Unbelievable." The exclamations came from all directions. 10%? 90%? It was a horrific tax that even an old British colonial scoundrel couldn't have imagined. Is it really okay to join hands with such a devilish person? This gave Chairman Kim Dae, young, a great sense of skepticism. Although he is a vicious businessman in the eyes of the world, he prides himself on having lived a life of minimal goodness. At least he didn't let his employees starve to death, although like many businessmen, he's worked his employees to death, subcontracting to third, fourth, and fifth parties to cut costs and creating harsh working conditions. But Leon wasn't like that. To take away 90% of the people's earnings as taxes, how could anyone be this evil? Chairman Kim realized he was a real medieval king. He was terrified of what would happen if someone like this had influence over domestic companies. What an evil man. I am one, but not as evil as him. The next day, there were reports of a dramatic settlement with the protesters. Even with the president's introduction, Leon doesn't bother to meet with the lowly merchant in order to distribute 10 of the rice produced in the Naju plain. The government takes 10 and leaves the rest to the farmers to dispose of freely, but today's farmers don't have the power to distribute the rice. As the name of the Temple of 10,000 Gods spreads through YouTube advertisements, and news of the temple and the blessed crops appear on the news, interest in the issue is amplified. This means that individual farmers are powerless to protect it unless they sell their goods. Immediately Hanha re-reported that while distributing the rice, they were attacked by cancer patients. It was a disturbance caused by a few desperate, terminally ill patients, but there's no telling when it will lead to hired guns and mercenaries. 230 million won a kilogram. Ha! Re-cheered from the sidelines, because it was a lot more than what the association was paying. That's a steal, Your Majesty. It should be cheaper.
What?
It's the market that sets the price of goods, but the crops are so expensive. No, isn't expensive a good thing? Ha, I thought so inwardly, but Leon disagreed. If it's so expensive, how can the poor people buy it and eat it? God's favor should be given equally to all the people. So, I told the president that he should educate the peasants and preach divine favor, but he said that the president must remain religiously neutral. Well, he has a point. Where Leon lived, religion was a powerful force, but here on Earth, it was different. The theocracy had died out hundreds of years ago, and the only place left where the political establishment could proselytize was in the Middle East. The president was supposed to be religiously neutral. Well, this has gathered quite a bit of faith, enough to build up the power of the Lionheart and its legions. At that, Ree realized something and spoke up. Those whom your majesty ordered to prepare are currently on standby. Have you found suitable dungeon? Yes, but your majesty. Are you sure you don't mind? What do you mean? Hari dutifully prepared what Leon had requested. Even though she had become a temporary employee of the 10,000 Gods Guild, the association was keeping a close eye on Leon, so it was easy for her to give in to his demands. The yellow ranked gate that appeared this morning. A yellow grade gate. It's a gate that Leon, who has more than enough power, can handle on his own. But he's not the one clearing this gate. It would be impossible for those chosen by His Majesty to attack that gate. Well, that remains to be seen. Leon smirked at the questioning Hari. If they cannot do it with this king by their side, I won't be able to use them as soldiers. 2 days later, more than 50 hunters were gathered in front of Samjeon Station in Songpa, Gu, Seul, and among them was Kudai, Sung, who had been a D-rank hunter for 10 years. Chapter 30. The Good Orc 1. Hey, isn't that Mr. Ku? Did you get the text too? Team leader Kim, nice to see you here again. Seeing the familiar face, Ku scratched his head and said hello. What's going on anyway? The president of the association has called all of us low-rank hunters together. At that, Ku-Day, Sung realized that the hunters gathered here were all D-rank. He wondered if they were trying to recruit new employees, but the association's salaries are not high to say the least. If you're trying to make ends meet, it's not a very attractive prospect. Of course, if you're a member of the association, they tend to give you decent weapons and supplies. He wondered how long they had to wait until they saw a group of association employees in the distance, approaching them. Oh, it's Miss Han-Ha-Ri. Han-Ha-Ri, the Flame Swordsman? I heard she broke the record for the highest price in last year's draft. The young woman's braided red hair was impressive, and her admiring gaze made Ku-Day, Sung inwardly envy Ha-Ri. How could he not be jealous that someone 12 years younger than him was being honored with such a brilliant talent? Soon, however, another celebrity that Ha-Ri couldn't compare to appeared. His Majesty Leon Dragonia Lionheart. Leon is politely escorted to the podium by the association's staff. Here. One day, Sung saw Leon on the news about the closing of the Xiongju Gate. He was stunned. Leon Dragonia Lionheart was a survivor and the king of a kingdom destroyed by demons. He knew the blonde man he met at the test was out of the ordinary, but he had no idea Leon was a survivor. That's why he was so strong. Survivors are special people. They were great men and women who had survived the destruction of their world. Heroes with special powers, unlike ordinary people like him. Now that he's cleared the Xiongju Gate, he'll continue to rise. It's already being said that Leon should be promoted to S-Class Hunter, even though he's been a D grade for 10 years. Ku-Day. Sung was honestly envious of him, envious of his strength, envious of the fame he was going to get. Anyone would be like that, and he wanted to be like that too. Gather round. You have been summoned for a reason. The hunters stared at Leon's words. It was Leon, not the president, who summoned them. And if so, what is the relationship between the president and Leon? Did the survivor named Leon decide to join the Hunters Association? With speculation flying and the local broadcast showing no signs of slowing down, Ha-Ri shouted into the microphone. Silence, His Majesty speaks. Awkwardly, the hunters stopped talking at her words, and only when they all looked at him did Leon speak. I will recruit soldiers to join the 10,000 Gods Guild. Only those who are worthy, those who have proven themselves, and those who have endured the training will be allowed the honor of entering the gates of this king. The hunters were dumbfounded by Leon's words. But aside from that, the idea of being the next S-class hunter and joining the guild of a survivor was very appealing. In the top 10 guilds in Korea with S-class hunters, the lowest cut is B-class. Even if they don't make it, they're at the upper end of Class C, where Class B growth is likely. It was common for hunters who were Class C or D hunters to have to work in small and medium-sized guilds, or as porters because they weren't good enough. To them, the invitation to join an S-ranked hunters guild was too tempting. Hey, is it okay for anyone who wants to join? Enlistment. Anyway, not just anyone can join. At Leon's words, the hunters were tempted to just do a little test, but they didn't see it as a big deal. As a bunch of D-list hunters like themselves, they didn't think they would make the cut. And then there were those who saw it as a great opportunity and were passionate about it. No, I'll do it, unconditionally. Like Ku Dae, Sung, there were those who wanted honor and growth to enter Leon's gates. Then, let's get right to it. We'll proceed with the practical test. The test is clearing the 3 Regions Gate, which was bid on by His Majesty's 10,000 Gods Guild. The 3 Regions Gate. It was a familiar neighborhood for him. Since Ku Dae, Sung had gone to high school nearby. The hunters immediately used their phones to search for gates in the 3 Regions Gate. It's a yellow grade. What? How are we supposed to clear it? Gates are categorized into black, red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. The gate at Seal Station, which is used as a test for D-rank hunters, is rated blue. Given that most of the hunters here are Class C or D, their toughest targets are yellow, where they act as porters. This is ridiculous. You want us to clear the yellow level by ourselves. You're asking us to die. What kind of test is this? The room echoed as more than 100 people shouted. If you don't want to continue, you're welcome to leave. Ha, you don't really think I'm not going to leave when you ask me to leave. What a waste of time. One by one, the hunters leave. Ku Dae. Sung glanced at Ha, Ri, and Leon, hoping to stop them, but they showed no sign of stopping them. More than half the hunters were gone, and less than 50 remained when Leon stood up. You there, the one who looks like he got hit by a bomb. Yeah. The afro-haired hunter stammered back. Why did you stay? Well, it's just, I thought it might all have a deeper meaning. I see. You there, why did you stay? I just stayed. Even with that answer, Leon nodded and turned his attention to Ku Dae. Why did you stay? Ku Dae, Sung replied in a voice that was both embarrassed and excited that Leon was speaking to him from such a great height. I didn't think you would let us die, so I stayed. You're determined. That's good. Leon tapped him on the shoulder, and it was strangely not unpleasant. On the contrary, it was encouraging. This king said he's here to recruit soldiers. It was a difference in words, but a big difference. The virtue of a soldier is obedience, so do not question your knight's orders. Trust in the honor of the knight. Trust in the strength of the knight. That is all that is required of you. In short, he'd pick the one who listened. We're going. Get your supplies and be ready. The 50 or so hunters quickly donned their gear and headed for the 3 Regions Gate. Hummer. A little heavy. Ku Dae, Sung agreed with Kim's small complaint. He and the other applicants to join the then 1,000 Gods Guild were all heavily armed. With the exception of the ranged dealers, the melee fighters all wore a common set of equipment, shields, and armor. I'm a dealer! Instead of his usual longsword, Ku Dae, Sung picked up a shield and a one-handed sword. This would make it difficult for him to use his usual sword techniques. Still, your equipment is good. Isn't it all rare? It must have cost 10 million won. The hunter's equipment that Leon had purchased at his own expense from the Daelong Group's Daelong iron and steel were high-end items that even D-class hunters couldn't afford. Weapons and armor are inherently consumable. so it's not easy for a low-rank hunter like Ku Dai Sung to spend a lot of money on equipment. But with Leon paying for all of their equipment, they were able to equip themselves with luxuries they never thought possible. Really, he's not going to just let us die. He said it was a test. Apparently, this otherworldly king may have a strange personality, but he's not stingy. But he's actually a bit skimpy with his clothes. I know. Leon is dressed in casual clothes, and aside from a rather ragged-looking leather jumper, he wears no armor. Mr. Han-Ha, Ri. Yeah, what's up? Hunter Ku Dai Sung. Han-Ha, Ri also wore armor. Leon. Ha, Ri interrupted Dai Sung. Shh. You can't call His Majesty's name without permission. He'll be angry. Ah, is that so? Then why doesn't His Majesty? Because His Majesty's skin is harder than armor. What the hunters saw when they entered the Three Regions Gate was a field reminiscent of the vast European meadows. In this day and age, such a vast expanse of nature is breathtaking to behold. At least we won't have to fight while inhaling smoke. Not all gates are this pleasant, especially the cave dungeon gates, which are often filled with heat from the aftermath of battle. The quest is... Ku Dai Sung wasn't distracted by the natural surroundings and went straight to the quest. You are mercenaries from the outside. In this great steppe where tribal wars are raging, choose one of the 2 tribal alliances and lead them to victory. An NPC-assisted quest. Just like the Xiongju Gate, or the Hunan Plains Gate, the gate will naturally close after clearing the quest. Mr. Ku, it's a faction quest, right? Yes. It seems that you have to take the side of one of the 2 warring tribal confederations and lead them to victory. It was the same thing no matter which side they picked. The question is, which side is easier to support? In these optional quests, the reward depends on the choice you make. The problem is how to figure that out, but the moment of truth came quickly. Hey everybody, look over there, I think it's a monster. The hunters' gazes snapped up at the shout, where a group of hulking figures were walking toward them, fangs jutting out, massively muscled, huge axes, green-skinned. They were... Oh, orcs! Orcs, humanoids that are almost as common as goblins in fantasy-type gates. Seriously, you can't be talking about a tribal war. A war of orcs. Dozens of orcs approached, and an orc who rode up to them on a large boar spoke in a booming voice. Who are you? This is the territory of our Warhammer tribe, and you have invaded our territory. Ku Dai Sung hurriedly approached Ri, and Leon to ask about their course of action. Your Majesty, for now, why don't we follow the quest? As you wish. Leon narrowed his brow, but left the judgment to Ri. We're mercenaries. We're here to help the tribe in exchange for rewards. Mercenaries? The orcs tilt their heads at Ri's words, then nod in agreement. These must be the outsiders Chieftain was talking about. Follow me. Thanks to the quest scenario, the orcs accepted the hunters with ease, and they entered a camp set up by dozens of orcs. Welcome, mercenaries. I am Kata Karak, chieftain of the Warhammer tribe. Call me Han-Ha, Ri. Han-Ha. Ri awkwardly greeted the leader, as she naturally became the spokesperson, when Leon didn't step forward. I heard you'd have some useful mercenaries, but you're not as useful as I thought. We are currently in the midst of a great battle to determine the great chieftain of the grasslands. The tribes are sending their warriors to fight, and whoever wins will be closer to becoming the great chieftain. Such a quest. Ku Dai Sung flipped through the guidebooks he'd kept in his head, having read countless examples of how to attack the gate. Orcs are a warlike race that loves to fight and decides everything by war. While they were generally hostile to all other races, they tended to respect warriors and value honorable combat. In short, it's easy to win their favor if you fight well. The rewards for quests involving orcs are mainly weapons, but if you're lucky, you might get an elemental weapon or the ability to communicate with spirits from a shaman. Elementalists are a rare breed among hunters, and once you master the skill, you're guaranteed to reach at least a B rank, so it's known among hunters as the Lotto of Orc quests. The heart of an orc warrior is a powerful magical ingredient that can be used as a permanent body enhancer. It was also called the Lotto of lower level hunters. But that's not all, as every single orc is at least a rank C monster. They are powerful monsters, averaging about B rank. On top of that, they almost always move as a unit, and the rewards are not worth the trouble. As a result, orc gates are terrible, with many players reselling their gates after they've won the auction. Still, there are dozens of tribes fighting, so we might get lucky and get one or two. While Kude, Sung expressed his vague expectations, Kartakarak blew out a thick breath and clenched his fists. Support our Warhammer tribe. Greater wars. More honorable deaths. He who wins shall have it all. That was it. The cynical sneer on his face was unmistakable. Who are you? Ah, not me. A hunter waved his hand in the air, stunned by the momentum of Kartakarak. But just then, Leon stepped forward. I'm afraid I'm not going to have any of this. Your Majesty? Ha! Ree was taken aback by Leon's sudden move, but she didn't dare stop him. You're a strong warrior, and with a warrior like you helping us, the showdown will be our honorable victory. Honor? You're a brute with no idea what you're talking about. Insulting me. It was that moment. Leon's sword flashed out of thin air, and in the blink of an eye, it sliced through Kartakarak's neck. Ha! No, what? The orcs, and even the hunters, stiffened in horror. You will die, not as honorable warriors, but as worms waiting for the ground, for that is the eternal justice. Leon Dragonia Lionheart is a super orc racist and the legendary orc butcher who buried 8,769,653 orcs. Chapter 31. The Good Orc 2. The orc chieftain's head rolled back, and as everyone stood there, mouths agape, unable to comprehend the situation, Yappy, who had been sitting on top of Ha-Ree's head, was the first to react. Hostile target recognized. Annihilation initiated. Yappy's robotic arm stretched out steel wires and swung like a whip through a perfectly calculated trajectory. You killed the chieftain, Bass. The orcs didn't even manage to show their anger because their heads were already cut. The severed heads of the orcs feel like neatly cut cube steaks. Enemy. Kill. Kill them. The orcs in the camp charged in unison as Leon shouted, Raise your shields, form a circle, and block their charge. Leon's words awakened the hunters, including Kude, Sung, and they instinctively raised their shields to block the orcs' charge. Boom! Shit, what the hell is this? I don't know. The orcs, who had their chieftain and kins decapitated, were enraged and tried to kill the hunters. Raise your shields higher. Shields don't just protect you. Protect the right shoulder of the comrade next to you. Stop! The hunters protected each other with their shields, but it was only a matter of time. Damn, they're too strong. We're only D-class hunters. How are we supposed to win against orcs with similar numbers? Orcs, a natural fighting race where even the weakest orc was a match for a Class C hunter. With their large stature and bulging muscles, the hunters were not a match for them. Normally, it would be a miracle if they even survived the first charge. Kude. Sung realized that they were blocking the orcs' charge. It was strange, because the hunters here are the lowest rank hunters who can't go on one against orcs. But strangely, he wasn't afraid. Just having Leon beside him was a relief, and he felt a surge of strength, like he could accomplish anything. At that moment, several hunters saw a system message floating in the corner of their vision. Taura of the Lion's Heart. I effect. Grant's Legion hardened assault defense. Grant's Legion hardened fortification. Grant's Legion Reinforcement Battalion reinforcement. Grant's Legion strengthened valor. Grant's Legion upgrade light armor. Grant's Legion upgrade tough skin. Grant's Legion upgrade heavy strike. Grant's Legion enhanced archaic empowerment. Grant's Legion improved range resistance. Grant's Legion upgrade keen gaze. Grant's Legion improved anti-infantry slaughter. Grant's Legion powered pollution resistance. Greatest Orc Butcher effect. Grants 50 critical hit against orcs. Orcs are struck with fear, confusion, and despair. Spreads a well-deserved hatred of orcs. What is this? Living demigod. Protector of the War Knights. Thay Grail Guardian. Dragon Slayer's honor. Terror of demonic species. Demon Lord Slayer. Greatest Demon Slayer. Strongest Charger. The level of the Legion members is too low. Many of the enhancement traits are not applicable. Crazy! What the hell? It's a scam. Sometimes the Hunter's unique class commander was similar to this. Natural command, operational skills, and troop buffs could hardly affect a large battlefield in a red gate. However, it was a class that required a rearguard position due to its lack of combat capabilities. So how could a man with such powerful combat capabilities like Leon possess such power? Raise your shield, push back, plunge your sword into the gap. The voice of the Night King thundered in their heads, and the mere sound of it filled them with a surge of courage and made them shiver with a sense of omnipotence. With him, we shall triumph. The unfounded confidence grows and actually pushes the orcs' momentum back. From wherever the unbelievable power came from, a stabbing blade pierced the orcs' tough hide. I, the warrior god. The orcs screamed their last words, calling out to their god, but the lion-hearted king would have none of it. How dare these vile beasts call upon their gods, cut off their tongues, decapitate their heads, and insult their false gods? Leon could not remain still and summoned the divine beast stallion. The pure white colossus, bathed in divine light and revealed green skin in its eyes. Kerr! Kerr! It roars as its gaze sears with rage, and he leaps through the dust, carrying his ally with him. What? The orcs panic, looking at Stallion, who delivered a sharp back kick, and the orc's neck snapped, and he fell limply to the ground. Let's go, Stallion! Summoning his holy spear, Leon began to slaughter the orcs that surrounded the hunters, and it took less than 10 minutes for the 130 orcs in the orcs' camp to be decimated. Well done, Stallion! Poof! Stallion disappeared, telling Leon to summon him again when he finds more orcs. All around him were the bodies of the slain orcs and the unharmed hunters. Let there be a shout of victory, an honorable victory. Wah! Hoo! Hoo! Wow! Ah! The hunters were dumbfounded, as they couldn't believe that they had won against over 100 orcs, and not a single one was injured. This is strange. Are orcs normally this weak? No, it was completely different from normal. An unknown power surge. Even those who weren't looking at the messages felt it instinctively that an unknown force had enveloped them. Is he a commander? No. I heard from the Golden Lion Guild that he single-handedly destroyed the Yacht Spinner. He's a combat class, and he has buff skills like that? Is that possible? Lionheart King. I heard he's the King of Knights. They suddenly realized who they were looking at. King Lionheart, a knight of unparalleled strength, and a commander who had won countless battles that even before he became the king. He was a renowned war knight, a border guard who slaughtered countless orcs. I, your majesty. Ha! Rhi approached Leon with bloody face, her sword stained with orc blood. What is it? Ha, Rhi? Why did you do this? At that, Leon looked genuinely puzzled. Would this king need a reason to kill orcs? But the quest is helping orcs to complete a quest. That's insane. Leon's anger at the orcs was unending. They are beasts, unworthy of respect. Their very existence is a blight, and they don't deserve to live. Honor. Warriors? There is no honor in their warfare. They may be brave, but how can the ferocity of a beast be compared to the valor of a knight? Do not treat them as men. They are disgusting beasts that do not deserve to live. He's an orc racist. Re-vowed never to tell Leon that there were orc survivors on Earth, since she could clearly see what would happen if Leon found out about them. Why does your majesty hates them so much? They can't build a civilization, and are a bunch of dregs that spend their lives fighting. What kind of culture is going to blossom from a people who depend on plunder? They'll never be able to blend in with other races. He had a point since, over the course of 30 years, quite a few orcs had crossed over to Earth, but they had all become fiends. The proliferation of the orc Harlem in the United States is still a plague on American society, and orcs are involved in the drug trade, massacres in South America, and more. Murder and violence were the hallmarks of the race, and they could never be integrated into civilized society. However, their ability to reproduce was superior to that of humans, and their voting rights and cultural differences plagued the world. So much so that a new phrase was coined, orcophobia. So, how do you propose to close the gate? Kill all the orcs at this gate, every last one. Rhee's shoulders jolted at the declaration as Yappy landed on her head. Lord Spinner, anything to report? Scouting report. Field area measured, 2.5 million square kilometers. 56 orc camps found. Orc numbers approximately 4,650. 4,000! Even though they had to take a side to win, the scale of the battle was staggering, and Leon chose the option of killing all the orcs, so the difficulty level of the gate was no longer yellow, but scarlet. For a bunch of beasts, there are quite a few of them. A few? Yes. In the Kingdom of Beasts, a single orc tribe had a standard number of 100,000. Considering the nature of the gate, this was a staggering number. Your Majesty, do you really intend to kill them all? That would take too much time, to say the least. I'm sure this king can manage, but it's not right to take up too much of my time with these beasts. But Leon has not given up, and he intends to kill every last orc in this gate, no matter how long it takes. Your Majesty, suggestion. It was then that Yappy made a suggestion in his mechanical voice. What is it, Lord Spinner? Yappy showed a hologram through his camera eye. It was a map of the field created shortly after the battle when he launched his mapping scope into the sky. He captured the headwaters of the river as it cut through the orc villages. This place. Yappy from above. Rhee's head points upstream with his sharp legs. I'll leave it to you. Yacht Spinner dipped into the flowing river and activated its energy, initiating core overload, power at 99.9. Yacht Spinner began to activate his core at full power, and the cooling system shuts down as the energy kicks in, and a plume of smoke rises. Tor overloaded. Cooling system failing. The yacht spinner opened its carapace and ejected the fuel rods inside, as with a bang. Something that resembled poop appeared. Don't speak dirty words in my presence. Well, she wasn't wrong. Yacht spinner is powered by a small nuclear reactor, and the high-power electricity generated by the reactor creates a perpetual motion machine. But because it's a reactor, it has fuel rods, and in the event of an emergency, a self-destruct sequence that overloads the reactor and causes nuclear fusion happens. Yacht Spinner was only halfway through the self-destruct sequence as it overloaded the reactor to the point of core meltdown, and ejected the fuel rods when the critical level was reached. The river that all the orcs in the field use for drinking water is pickled in radioactivity. Your Majesty, we are safe under your protection, but is this okay? What do you mean? According to chivalry, this is cowardly. Leon smirked at Ree's question. He didn't seem to feel the slightest bit remorseful for carrying out a plot that he himself would consider cowardly. What kind of chivalry is that against beasts? If I can kill one more, I'll use a ranged weapon. Eek. Right, Lord Spinner. This is not a war or a duel against green beasts, Leon said in a voice that held endless hatred and contempt. It's about exterminating the beasts. What hunter has honor when he hunts? There can be good orcs too. As if he had heard something funny, Leon let out a sneer and spoke the unchangeable truth as if to enlighten these foolish and clueless people. The only good orc is a dead orc. Chapter 32. The Good Orc 3. Groktar, a warrior of the Blade Axe clan, began his day with a bang. Ka-ha-ha-ha-ha, Groktar has cracked Golden's skull. That was some good axe work, brother. Groktar prays for his compatriot, whose skull was split open in a morning quarrel. You died fighting bravely, and the warrior god will send you to the eternal battlefield. After blessing the corpse of his fallen comrade, Groktar heads to the river. He raises his staff to the water, celebrating his honorable victory. Groktar of the Blade Axe clan. A voice called out from across the river. It was an orc from a hostile tribe in the Bloodbath that would determine the next great chieftain of the grasslands. Yes, and who are you? My name is Balbata of the Iron Fist tribe. Yes, Balbata. What is it? Fight me. I will defeat you and honor my people. Good. Raise your axe. Groktar split Balbata's head open and drank victory ale. All around him were orcs, who, like Balbata, had come to drink water and then challenged their kindred to a duel and lost. Was that why? The water tastes unusual today. Something about the water tingled and tickled him, making it taste strange. But this was the only water they had to quench their thirst, so they couldn't find any other. Groktar carried the bucket of water back to his tribe, and then the tragedy began. Groktar realized that his body was rapidly deteriorating. Before lunchtime, he lost his senses and fell unconscious several times. The radioactive material was destroying water molecules in his body, creating an excess of free radicals. The resulting hydroxyl radicals destroyed his body's cells in real time, and he tasted an unpleasant metallic taste in his mouth. The taste buds on his tongue had been disrupted. In less than an hour, he lost every hair on his body and experienced nausea, vomiting, generalized weakness, and bleeding. His body felt heavy, like he was carrying a boulder, and his vision was spinning, and he couldn't see clearly. Lord, shaman, call a shaman. Groktar cried out in pain and slipped out of his tent. He crawled out on his knees, but all he saw were his brothers with the same symptoms he had. Shaman. They had found the tribe's shaman. A shaman who didn't usually treat wounds, only performing tattoo spells to strengthen the tribe members, but they asked him to remove the curse on them. What? I don't know about this. I've never seen anything like this. This wasn't a spell or a curse. It was the result of drinking water from a river contaminated with highly concentrated radiation, so a shaman couldn't deal with it. The orcs were only able to survive because of their natural physical prowess. Lesser creatures would have died from the tainted blood they vomited. And so it was that the orcs in the meadows lay dying, contaminated by radiation. Glory to the Lionheart. The thundering footsteps of the hunters echoed across the meadow as Leon Javelin pierced the orc shaman's torso. Ka! The orc shaman, pierced through the torso, tried to attack the raiders with elemental magic, even as he was lifted up, but was instead thrown and rolled across the ground. Exterminate the beasts. Do not let a single one live." With a rumbling shout, the hunters burst into the orc camp. "Go, free experience points. Kill them all. I can't believe how easy it is to kill orcs." The hunters slaughtered orc after orc, whistling as they did so at the emaciated state of the orcs they had never seen before. It was not a battle. It was a massacre, a slaughter. "Emma, your majesty." "What is it, huh, Rai?" "If we kill the radioactive orcs, we'll be exposed to the radiation too." "The toxins, you mean? They're nothing to worry about." Leon was not unaware of the toxicity of radioactive materials, as Yappy had explained the dangers well enough, and that it was powerful enough to kill all the orcs in the meadow. "It doesn't matter. If it's that toxic, it can be washed away by eating the crops Demera has blessed us with. Best of all who enter the gates of this king will have the power to resist contamination." Ha ha. What does this mean for the quest? The dungeon's closing requirements were shattered. At that moment, a message popped up in front of Ha, Ree's eyes. "You have turned the entire Orc tribal alliance against you, becoming their public enemies." What the hell? A quest change. This was the first time a quest had been changed, and Hazerori looked at the new quest. "Our hidden quest. Slay all orcs in the field." "Your Majesty, the quest has been changed." As Ha re-reported the changed quest, Leon smiled in satisfaction. "Good. At last, justice has been done. Soldiers of Lionheart, the time for light and justice has come." A few hundred orcs remained, and Leon intended to dispose of every last one of them. It was then that there was a strange change in the air in the center of the orc camp, and the sky was turning green. "What is that?" Leon rode Stallion straight to the center of the change, and found the orcs gathered there. "It's you! It's you! You're the one who poured the curse on the river." Hundreds of sick and dying orcs and a robed orc shaman looked at Leon and the hunters, bloodshot and furious. "You wicked bastards, you cowards! You call yourselves warriors!" The orc shaman wept tears of blood as he watched his people die a horrible death. Orcs are a race closer to death than any other, but because of this, there was no such thing as a dishonorable death. "Ha!" Leon sneered in amusement at the orcs' cries. Worthless beasts crying out for honor. The beasts' eyes, screaming with rage, were hollow and dirty, and it was a humiliation for Leon to meet their gaze. The honor of the Lionheart King is not to be found in the eyes of beasts. It's a crime that cannot be forgiven, even if you are covered in blood and have your eyeballs gouged out alive. The orcs shuddered the chilling sentence. "Curse your ugly selves, and give yourself a chance to redeem yourselves, you filthy beasts. Arrogant bastards, Gokrok will not forgive you." At that moment, the shaman's eyes glowed green, and he emitted a doomed aura. "The beast speaks." Leon didn't wait for the energy to dissipate, but lifted his holy spear and hurled it at the shaman. Several orcs raised their shields to protect the shaman, but the javelin, thrown with superhuman strength, pierced through them and slammed into the shaman's gut. No, it's too late. The shaman poured all of his life force, and the life spell succeeded as a portal opened. "Gokrok descends, our great shaman god will." As if the gates of hell had opened, a black pit pushed through the space, and the great breath from within sucked in all directions. "For the shaman god, to avenge our brothers." The orcs offered no resistance and were willingly sucked in. "Your Majesty, what is that?" "Ha, a human sacrifice. Indeed, beasts, and not the least bit civilized." Ha, Re, and the other hunters stared at Leon in disbelief. There were many things she wanted to say, but she decided to hold back. "Behold, this is the great right arm and eye of Gokrok." Yudin Quest. Defeat the orc shaman god Gokrok. Orcs are an otherworldly race of uncertain origins, but their characteristics are simple. They are violent, combative, and highly fertile. They are despised as savage beasts, but they have their gods and Gokrok, the Orc Shaman, one of the 3 great Orc gods. He answered the summons of the Orc Shaman, who inherited his wisdom. Though it took the sacrifice of hundreds of orcs and the souls of thousands of orcs to summon one arm and one eyeball, Gokrok saw the orc butcher in his searing green eyes, and with all his might he summoned his mouth and called the creature. Unacceptable, must be destroyed. Gokrok's eyes glowed, and a green beam that was aimed at Leon shot out, but the protection of the arrow shield, a holy law that allowed any ranged attack to be blocked once, blocked Gokrok's eye beam. Protected by a being like me, who is the god that protects you. Gokrok realized that the power that blocked the force was that of a transcendent being. Though on a different plane, he was intrigued by a being that could stand up to him. A being like you. But Leon's reaction was dramatic. There was no fear or hesitation in the face of a divine being, but rather anger. All positivity is stripped from his fresh smile, replaced by a vast amount of murderous rage. You bastard! You think you're a god by being the leader of beasts? Ah! Leon's halberd glows and stallion charged, holy sword in hand. You filthy beast! Your presence will not be tolerated by the Lionheart King. Leon's sword glowed. Light layered all around it, just as it had earlier, when he poured holy water into it to activate it. Mere mortals! Gokrok's right arm slammed down toward Leon. The massive mass is a force in itself, and Rai and the hunters were stunned by the sight of the 20-meter right arm slamming into Stallion and Leon. Your Majesty? But Leon charged on, unperturbed. His sword glowed with a brilliant light. The holy sword given to the first knight by the god of light and justice. This sword possesses another power besides indestructibility. The holy sword of brilliance, a symbol of unquenchable splendor that can cut through anything in the world. What? Panic flashes through Gokrok's voice, but it was understandable since a mortal, albeit a strong one, cut off his arm. Holy Knight's trait. Their holy swords are written with holy law. The power of the concept to deliver a true blow to the person you cut. Even if you're strong, if you're slashed by this sword, your body will take a hit as well. Cool. Kaya ah. Go, Lord Gokrok. The god screamed in pain, and the Orc Shaman panicked. You. Yes, it was you. Yes, it was you. Gokrok recognized his opponent's identity by the damage to his body. He was a knight from another dimension than his own, but one so infamous that demons feared him. A demigod of that nightmarish world where the highest-ranking demons under the evil god of wisdom and inquiry were said to have died in droves. I will retreat for now, but you will pay the price for this rampage. With those words, Gokrok ended his summoning and returned to his own dimension. The Orc Shaman was dumbfounded as the alter ego of the god he had paid thousands of orc souls to summon vanished. Go, Gokrok, Gokrok. Leon stepped up to the shaman, who shivered at the shadows that shrouded him. So much for the god of your trash beasts. I know. Oh. The shaman didn't finish his sentence as Leon's holy sword had decapitated him. The Orc Shaman's head rolled back, and Leon stared down at it in disdain. Humph, beasts like you should not exist. You have completed all hidden quests. All participants are granted the talent Orc Hunter. All participants will receive the talent Man at Arms of the War Knight. Hunters cried out when they saw that they received talents as rewards, since by nature, talents are rare rewards for hunters. The theory was that talents were earned through specific actions or repetitive behaviors. But to have 2 rewards like this, Tor Hunter, gain 30 more damage when dealing with orcs. Man, at Arms of the War Knight, gain 20 physical resistance when fighting alongside a knight with the War Knight talent. The stats aren't great. One is Orc, specific, which is a bummer, but it's a whopping 30s bonus damage, and Man-at-Arms of the War Knight grants 20 physical resistance. Virtually all of the hunters had physical resistances that only tank hunters would have. Fuck, this is awesome. As Ku Day. Sung and the other hunters stood dumbfounded by the hidden quest rewards. Leon exclaimed, "We're collecting the loot. Hurry up and move." The hunters jumped to their feet. Yes, there was loot left. Over 4,000 orcs had been killed, and even if the gate where the orcs appear is terrible, 4,000 of them is a lot of loot. As long as the dungeon closing conditions were fulfilled, they had to scrape up the loot from the gate as soon as possible. "Hurry up! Focus on the warrior class and higher. We need to get all the shaman's equipment." Arg. If these bastards died nicely, the heart of the warrior would be a great item. Would a radioactive heart be okay? I don't know. If we ate the blessed rice, we won't have to worry about radiation. Let's get them out. The hunters scattered in all directions of the meadow with greedy eyes. Unlike them, Ree and Yappy stayed behind since Ree was not greedy for items, and Yappy's attention was elsewhere. Your Majesty. What should I do with this? Ree pointed to a giant severed arm. It was the severed arm of the orc shaman god Gokrok that was left behind when Gokrok closed the dimensional gate. Chapter 33. The Good Orc 4. The results of slaughtering over 4,000 orcs were staggering. The average D-rank hunters easily killed dozens of orcs that would normally be too much for them to handle one. And they scavenged for supplies. Wow! Mr. Gu, look at this. There are over 500 axes in this camp alone. Team leader Kim Du-han, who had been mining the resources inside the gate, and team leader Ku Day, Sung, who had only been a porter at the Green Gates, were mesmerized by the loot in front of them. This is amazing. With more than 4,000 orcs, the supplies were enormous. From weapons to alcohol, to meat, to orc boars. But, as is often the case with orc gates, only weapons and certain items are useful. Elemental weapons! We need to find an elemental weapon. The orcs' weapons were sometimes imbued with spirit beasts. These were weapons that could only be imbued with the help of an orc shaman, and could only be wielded by at least a mid-level warrior. Most of them use spirits to lighten their movements, such as the wolf spirit, or to harden their bodies, such as the rock spirit. So the drops couldn't be better for low-rank hunters. But how do we recognize a spirit weapon? I've never been inside an orc gate. Team leader Kim Du-han, who only mined, couldn't tell the difference between spirit weapons, but Ku Day. The orcs put a tooth or a piece of the corresponding spirit on the spirit weapon as an ornament. You just have to look for something like that. You know your stuff, Mr. Ku. 50 hunters circled the field of death, but the gate was so large that they had plenty of time before it closed. Mr. Ku, look at this. 20 spirit weapons. 20. 7 orc shaman staffs. The orc shaman staff was a favorite of elementalists, and the great warrior's heart was used to make powerful permanent enhancers. If a rank D hunter ingested an enhancer made from the heart of the warrior, it would instantly boost their physical abilities to rank C. The effect was so powerful that it was the standard training route for all high-level hunters to consume one. Should I steal one? He wasn't that greedy, but the enhancer was worth at least 400 million won. When will I ever be able to get something like this? When I'm just a porter at the Green Gates, let alone the Orc Gates. Ku Day. Sung put the heart of the great warrior down in the storage box. He wanted to be strong, but he also wanted a clear conscience. Kayak! A piercing scream rang out, and all eyes turned towards it. What are you doing, you damn robot? There was a hunter tussling the yacht spinner. Thou Gokrok's severed right arm. The remnants of Gokrok's dismembered body were still there, but the question was, what to do with it. Bam! Bam! It was then that Yappy's voice came from above, Ri's head, drawing her attention. "You have a message, Lord Spinner." Message. Delivered, Heto. It was Heto, the god of iron and blacksmithing, trying to deliver a message through his knight. Yappy immediately brought up a holographic image of Heto in his likeness and delivered his words in real time. "I sense a great deal of magic in the severed beast's arm. Lionheart, if you absorb it through the Grail, we will channel it and give it to you to help you." "Is that so?" Leon said no more, and took out the Grail from his storage. He absorbed Gokrok's arm into the Grail, just as he had done when he destroyed the Orb of Wisdom. Even though Gokrok's arm was effectively absorbed, Leon kicked his tongue. The beast's worship must be quite sweet. Gokrok was the Orc shaman god. Though he had to admit that he was a type of god, Leon had no intention of recognizing him as one. The gods of demons and green beasts are not gods. They are absolute evil, unworthy of worship, that must be extinguished. Therefore, Leon does not recognize them as gods, even if they are. The only gods he recognizes are those who show love to their subjects. It was then that Leon heard Ariana's voice in his ear. "Lionheart, my knight. Goddess, what is wrong with you?" He hadn't even performed the ritual, but the goddess herself had spoken to him. Leon reminded himself that he was not in the fullness of his holy power as he had been in the past. "It's okay, my knight. I've absorbed the magic of that foul beast, so this should be easy." "Is that so?" "I have come to you, my knight, because you must make a choice." Leon nodded. "This power is not unlike concentrated divine power, so I believe it can be used to restore the power of the holy object you desire." "Is that true?" Leon has 4 holy objects. The first is the Lionheart, the most powerful heart, forged from the holy power passed down to the Lionheart kings. The wielder of this heart strengthens countless soldiers with his mere presence, and grants himself infinite vitality. Second was the Holy Sword that has the same indestructibility as the holy swords commonly possessed by holy knights. This means it can never be broken. Then there's Brilliance, the sword that can cut through anything, but it's not something Leon will be able to maintain for long. The final power of the Holy Sword is too powerful. If he could regain that power, the Holy Sword is on hold. Yes, it's not time to regain its power yet. It consumes too much energy. The final power of the Holy Sword is the most powerful power Leon has ever possessed, but it consumes a lot of energy. For now, since he has no immediate followers, he has chosen the Holy Grail. The 2 remaining holy relics are the Holy Spear and the Holy Grail. Leon hesitated for a moment, then made his choice. "I will restore the function of the Holy Grail. Yes, I will honor my knight's choice." Ariana understood Leon's intentions and breathed life into the Holy Grail. Gokrok's arm, which had been transmuted by the gods of the Pantheon, restored the Holy Grail power. The Holy Grail, once a ceremonial object, now glows brightly. Its golden color is restored to its former glory. Leon couldn't hide his excitement at the sight. After the Great War, 200 years ago, when all humans but himself died, the Grail lost its light. He couldn't help but feel sorry for the Holy Grail, as it lost its shine. Still, it was the Grail that had quenched his thirst from the endless battles. Though not all of its functions were restored, Leon was able to generate holy water from the Grail. It was no different than before, but as the Grail's guardian, he knew that this holy water had different powers than before. "It's done. This is a great harvest." Leon turned to Ri, and Yappy to tell them to gather the loot and prepare to return, but Yappy was nowhere to be seen above Ri's head. Where did Lord Spinner go? When did he disappear? It was then that a piercing scream came from the loot area. "What are you doing, you damn robot?" There, a hunter confronted a Yappy. What's going on? Ugh. This damn robot attacked me. Insulting a holy knight. Watch your language unless you want to get your tongue cut out. The hunters were stunned, but that was to be expected from Leon. How could a lowly commoner disrespect a knight? A holy knight chosen by God. Sir Spinner is a Grail Knight, directly under this king. What, robot? Shut your mouth. How dare a lowly creature address this king? Leon ignored the hunter, who was bleeding from a slashed wrist, and walked over to Yappy. What's going on, Sir Spinner? Loot. Thief. The hunter denied with a flushed complexion at Yappy mechanical voice. Oh no, you fool. No, it's a misunderstanding. I'll know if it's a misunderstanding or not when I'm done looking. Han-ha, Rai. Leon instructed. Ha-ri. Search him. Ah, old man. What? What are you doing? You're taking a robot's word for it. Now, wait! A pouch fell from the struggling man's arms. It was a crude, blood-stained cloth pouch, and inside, Rai found a large heart. This. What the man had stolen was the most valuable loot in Orc's Gate, the heart of an Orc warrior. This is a misunderstanding. I would never. It was the moment. Leon's sword flashed, and the man's wrist went flying into the air. Huh? For a moment, the man stared blankly at his missing wrist. Then, as he realized what had happened, a wave of pain washed over him. My arm. The hunter's attention was focused, and all but Yappy had pale faces as Leon spoke calmly. I recognize that your laws and common sense are different from my own, but you have entered the gates of the lion-hearted king, and that means you must obey my military laws, not yours. The thief got his wrists slit. That is the sovereign law of the Lionheart Kingdom, a military code where obedience to the knight is more important than life. This is the law of the land and the military code, and those who cannot obey it must die here and now. The hunters hesitated at Leon's declaration. This powerful, otherworldly survivor is out of their league, and many of his laws and regulations were unacceptable to modern earthlings. But aside from that, all those buffs. They felt like they went from a D-class to a C-class hunter. No, more than that. Wasn't it wrong to steal the heart of an Orc warrior in the first place? Damn, I don't know. I'm going to die like this anyway. The hunters hesitated, but eventually decided to accept Leon's reasoning. Since the Cataclysm, this world had been the world of the top hunters, and stealing from the gate was often met with death. How would anyone on Earth recognize a man who had stolen from the gate anyway? In the gate, where betrayal and thievery were commonplace, you could get away with anything. In fact, they were even convinced, as Leon had said, that it might be better to have proper military law and discipline. Your Majesty. Then cautiously, a man stepped forward. State your name, soldier. Leon knew who he was, but he demanded a name. I am Ku Day Sang. Why have you stepped forward? Ku Day Sang. Can't you at least let me take the thief's arm? Are you going to reattach it? Yeah. Yes. Modern medicine has come a long way since the Cataclysm, especially to the point where severed limbs could be reattached with a little haste. But there is no point in doing so. Your words dwarf the Lionheart's punishment. Ah, I realize that. But Ku Day. Sung looked at Hunter, whose wrists had been cut off, and made a bitter face. Your Majesty, we were raised differently than you, with different common sense. Your discipline was unknown to us, and now that you have made it known, we ask that you give us a chance. In short, he said, they couldn't abide by a military code they didn't understand, and the price for stealing was too high. You have a point. I apologize. By nature, a soldier cannot answer to a knight, but there are rules and laws on this planet. Leon conjured holy water, and, holding the severed arm, spoke to the tearful thief, "Be thankful that you have a man of reason among your comrades." He poured the holy water, and then something amazing happened as an arm sprang up from the thief's severed section and regenerated. "It's healed." "What?" "There." It was amazing to see a cut arm grow back. Of course, there were healers in charge of recovery, but even they could only reattach a severed arm. Even S-class hunters, the best healers in the country, could heal it quickly, but they couldn't do rapid regeneration, where cells grow from nothing. Crazy. That kind of power and a recovery that surpasses that of an S-class healer? What the hell is that guy? Is that the strength of a single person? The hunters, and even the hunter whose arm was cut off, were dumbfounded by this miracle. Instead, the hunter who experienced the miracle firsthand fell to his knees and begged for forgiveness. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. Thank you, thank you." Out of respect for the laws of your world, I forgive you this time, but you have lost your right to enter the gates of this king. Odd. He regretted his momentary greed, but Leon turned to the soldiers behind him and declared, "Those who wish to enter this king's gates shall remain, and those who do not, divide the spoils and leave." No one chose to leave. How could they, having witnessed his overwhelming strength and miracles throughout the battle? Leon sensed the longing and expectation in their eyes and was satisfied. 1 out of 50, but that's not bad. Good. Then we'll get straight to training. I trust that you will not fail to survive even this training. This was an opportunity, and they would do it unconditionally. But it would not be until 3 days later that the hunters would tearfully regret their choice.